We want somebody to like us for whatever reason. So we act the way we think they would like us if we acted. Yeah. Not because we particularly care about the other person, but because we want something out of them. In this case, we want them to like us. Okay? Or we maybe want somebody to do something for us. So we speak a certain way and we flatter them, we butter them up, and then ask for what we want. And people in society say that's okay, that's fine. Yeah? But if you really look psychologically at what's going on with us, our motivation is quite self-centered, even though the behavior may look very kind. So isn't that hypocritical? So in regular society, you can get away with being a hypocrite. When you look at how cause and effect operates on a psychological level, on a karmic level, hypocrisy only harms ourselves. Yeah. Because we're looking basically at just the functioning of our own mind and what kind of causes bring what kind of results. So you can wind up being very well known, very popular, very well liked in society, but inside your heart be completely corrupt, because our motivations are done with quite a self-centered attitude, not because we actually care about anybody. Yeah? So recognizing this, and recognizing that we're the ones who will experience the results of our own actions, then it really behooves us to try and improve our actions. Okay? And here, when I talk about actions, it's mental, verbal, and physical actions. And the whole thing is that our mental actions, what we plan to do, verbal actions, how we communicate, what we say, what we write in communication, and physical actions, what we do, physically. All of these stem from our motivation. Without a motivation, without an intention, our mind doesn't plan, our mouth doesn't speak, our body doesn't move. Unless, of course, it's one of these things like if you hit your knee and your leg, comes up. But other than that, the reflex actions, to act by body, speech, and mind, there has to be an intention. And the quality of our intention is the most important factor in determining what the result of our actions are. Because the results of our actions don't come necessarily immediately after the action. They can come much later. Just an ordinary type of example, many of you are at university now, getting an education, but the result of your education, may come 10, 20, 30 years from now. Okay, you don't know. But similarly, on a slightly different way of looking at it, all of our actions have some kind of ethical dimension, ethical value to them. And the result of our actions on an ethical dimension may come in this life, they may come in future lives, we don't know. Okay? But the point is that we are the ones who are creating whatever future we're going to have. We're the ones who are creating whatever reality we're going to experience in the future. So we usually look at life as if, there's me here and some kind of objective world out there. But it really isn't like that when we start to examine. When we examine, we see that we are co-creating our experiences, and that what is going on in our mind influences a lot what we experience. Okay? And I think this is the beauty of the Buddha's teachings, is that it's pointing us inside to look for the source of our suffering and the source of our happiness. Okay? So, to give you an example, have you ever woken up in a bad mood? Maybe this morning, actually. Some days we wake up, we're just grumpy and in a bad mood. Have you ever noticed on the days when you're in a bad mood, you meet so many inconsiderate, rude, obnoxious people? Yeah, that they all turn out that day, just when you're in a bad mood. Have you noticed that? On a day when you're in a good mood, even somebody gives you some feedback about your behavior that maybe points out how you could have done better or points out a mistake you made, you don't get bummed out about it. You listen, you accept it. Okay? So doesn't that have to do with what's going on in our mind at any particular time? Yeah? Why, when we're in a bad mood, do so many people appear obnoxious and insulting to us? And when we're in a good mood, even if they give us negative feedback, we don't get upset about it. Okay? That has to do with what's going on inside here, doesn't it? It's not due to the external objective situation. Similarly, we notice all the time, if we go somewhere with a friend, that we often have different experiences of the same situation. I remember one time, this came very clear to me. It was before I became a Buddhist, before I knew anything about Buddhism. It was 1973. I was on a trek in the Himalayas, and we had been up to Namche Bazaar, in the Sherpa region. We were coming down and we were going to fly out of the Lukla airport. Let me tell you what the Lukla airport looked like in 1973. Okay. It was maybe twice as long as this room. Grass. Yeah, no concrete, no asphalt, just grass. At the end of the space that's twice as long as this room, there's a cliff. And on the side down there, there's a crashed plane. And so we were going to fly out of the Lukla airport, my friend and I. And the flight was delayed, I think, because of bad weather or something like that. So some of the local Nepalis who, I guess, worked at the airport, if you want to call it an airport, came up and they said, you're going to have to stay overnight here. You can stay in our homes. Come and stay in our homes. So my friend that I was with, because we were both in the same exact situation, my friend thought, wow, these people are so kind. They know we're stuck here and we don't have anywhere to stay. There's no hotels in Lukla, so they invited us to stay in their homes. How kind they are. I looked at the situation and I thought, oh, They know we're Westerners. They're inviting us in so they can charge us a ton of money and rip us off. Okay? Same situation. My friend looks at it and sees kindness. I look at it and see I'm suspicious and I see conniving. Okay? That tells you a lot about the difference in the mental state between my friend and me. Okay? And a lot about the difference in our experience in that situation. He was quite happy to go. Yeah, and stay in the home. I was like, so we were both creating our own reality in that situation based on how we were looking at the same event. Okay? So this kind of example is showing us that what we experience has to do with what's going on in our own mind. Yeah? Because all the time we are interpreting things, and we don't realize that we are interpreting things. Instead, we think we're perceiving an objective reality. And so this gets us in a lot of problems. Okay? Take a work situation. I know some of you here are from the monastery staff. The students you'll be working before long anyway. Take a work situation, unless you ordain. So let's take a work situation. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, before I give this example, I'll tell you about an actual story that happened to one of my friends. He was working for NPR, National Public Radio in the States. He was a journalist in Seattle. And it was a nice sized office of radio journalists. And he told me that there was one person in his office that they had never spoken, but they didn't like each other. Yeah. And the proof was that they, whenever my friend Peter walked by, this guy never said hello. Yeah. Never met his eyes, never said hello. So Peter just said, this guy doesn't like me, he doesn't respect me, he thinks I'm an awful journalist, and so I don't even, look at him. And yet Peter was very uncomfortable in this situation because he's working with this guy and sees him every day. So one day, Peter had done one story, that had been broadcast on NPR. And the next day, at the office, Peter and this guy were passing each other, and Peter thought it was just as usual, this cold stare and not even acknowledging each other. But the other man stops him and says, that was a great story you did. And they start talking, and the other guy starts saying how much he appreciates Peter's journalism and thinks that he's a really good journalist. Okay. This is after months of Peter saying the guy doesn't like me and thinks, I'm awful. And so as a result, Peter treated him with a cold shoulder. Yeah. And then after that, of course, the whole thing changed. So, an excellent example, isn't it? How Peter had misread somebody's behavior and made up all these stories about it that weren't true, and then acted according to the stories that he had made up in his own mind. Yeah? So this happens to us a lot, So in a work situation, you may come into work, into your workplace, and maybe somebody doesn't look at you that morning. Or maybe they only look up and instead of greeting you with a smile, they look down again. And we interpret it as that person doesn't like me. Yeah? That's where our mind immediately goes. They don't like me. And I don't know what I did wrong. And this is totally unfair that they don't like me. And so as a result of them not liking me, I don't like them. Yeah? And then we're like cold and mean. Okay. Did we ever consider that maybe that person didn't feel well that morning? Did we ever consider that maybe they have something else on their mind? Did we ever consider that maybe we're not the center of the universe and that whatever anybody does is not necessarily related to me? Yeah? So this whole thing of interpreting everything in light of how we think it relates to us is way off base. Because there's over 7 billion human beings on this planet, and we think everything everybody does is in relation to one of them who just happens to be me. Okay? A little bit distorted, huh? Another example. When you're driving on the highway, we all know about road rage, don't we? You're driving on the highway, somebody cuts you off. Again, how dare they cut me off? Who do they think me up? I am. They can't drive like this and cut me off. That's awful. You know, I'm going to get my revenge. Well, I remember one time I was with a friend of mine, and she was having her home birth. She was delivering her baby at home. And she, you know, doing everything that you're supposed to do for a home birth. And the midwife was there, but she wasn't dilating properly. And it became evident that she had to go to the hospital. Yeah. So we put her in the car. And we're driving down the street. And of course, we're trying to get her to the hospital as soon as possible because this baby's trying to come out. And it could be dangerous for the mother and dangerous for the baby. And I think we cut some people off on the way to the hospital. Yeah? Now, if you were in one of those cars driving when we cut you off, yeah, if you had known that there was a woman delivering a baby in the vehicle, would you have gotten angry? No. You would have slowed down and said, please come in front of me. Okay? But often we don't know why the other person's cutting us off. And we just assume that they're trying to harm us in some way. Of course, we never cut other people off accidentally when we're driving, do we? Yeah, never. We never accidentally do that. Because we're perfect drivers. And when we, once in a while, accidentally cut somebody off, and they blast us with their horn, we say, why are they getting so upset? It was an accident. But when they cut us off, I'm going to retaliate. I was talking to a group of college students once, and one young man came up to me afterwards. I think he had just graduated and he was engaged, and his fiancée was in the car. And they were driving somewhere. Somebody cut him off on the highway. He got furious, totally furious. And he sped up as fast as he could and cut the other guy off. But as he did that, he lost control of the car, and the car went all the way across 4 lanes of highway onto the shoulder. Yeah. And when the car finally stopped, I don't know if it went in the ditch or not, but they were just sitting there like, you know, terrified. And he realized that he could have killed his fiancée because of his anger. Yeah. But they were both incredibly lucky that when the car went across 4 lanes of highway, nobody else was in those lanes at that time. Yeah. So just, you know, when we misperceive a situation, and then our mind gets out of control because of it. I mean, look at what can happen. And how often we misperceive things and take things personally. Okay, a little bit more about the importance of motivation. And how society judges us according to appearances, not what our motivation is. When somebody is raising money, let's say for a project, they want to build a hospital for charity cases in a part of the city that is impoverished, or maybe in another country that's impoverished. So they're fundraising to get some funds to build this hospital. So there's one person who's quite wealthy in the city and gives $1 million and thinks, I'm going to be the biggest benefactor in this project. And so after they build the hospital, you know, because they often, you know, when there's big benefactors, they will name a room or a wing after the benefactor, or they will put a plaque in the entryway with the names of the big benefactors. And so he gives $1 million and say, you know, they're going to name something after me. Here, have a plaque, you know, in the entryway with my name. And then everybody will know how generous and kind I am. Okay. That's one person who makes a donation. Another person doesn't have very much money. Maybe they give $20, but they think, may everybody who walks into this hospital be cured of their ailments. May nobody suffer anymore. May all the treatments work, and may everybody be cured and be well and live a happy life. And they give their $20 thinking like that. Okay. Who does society look at and say is generous? The person who gave 20, the person who gave $1 million. The person who gave $1 million. Yeah, they ignore the person who gave $20. Who was the generous person? Was the person who gave $1 million generous? Or were they self-seeking? Was their contribution self-serving, so they would have a good reputation? The person who gave $20 was the real generous person, not the other ones. Okay? So how society evaluates us, is not actually truth. And it's not so wise for us to always pay attention to societal evaluations and judgments, because they're based on superficial appearances. And we need to look more deeply what's really going on in somebody's heart. including our own. What is really motivating us? So for example, why do you go to work? What's your motivation for going to work? What's your motivation for going to school and getting an education? Yeah. Are you going to work because you want to earn money so you can buy a nice house and get a nice car and impress somebody else so that you can form a couple relationship? Is that why you're going to work? Are you going to school? Yeah, because your parents want you to, or because you don't know what else to do? Yeah. Why are we doing what we're doing? Do we ever stop and think about it? Because this is really the most important thing. Yeah. So two people can go and work in the same place with two different motivations, and as a result have two different experiences and create two different kinds of karma, which will ripen in two different kinds of experiences in a future life. So one person goes to work and thinks, I'm just here for the money. I need a job, they offered me a job. Oh, I would like more pay, but anyway, I gotta take what they give me. And I just work, I earn money, and then the real good part is when I get my paycheck, and then I can go out and spend it on what I really like. Okay. Another person goes to work and says, I really want to offer service at my workplace. Yeah. If I work in maybe a company that's producing a certain kind of good, I want to produce something that is a good kind of product that will really benefit the people who buy it. If I work in a place where there's clients and we're doing some kind of service, I want to benefit the clients. Yeah. Here at PKS, what are you doing? You're helping to spread the Dharma. I want to spread the Dharma so sentient beings can learn the Buddha's teachings and progress on the path to liberation and full awakening. And you go to work with that kind of job, with that kind of motivation. Or you can go to work with the previous one. I need a job and this one gives me a paycheck and then I can spend it on all the things I like. Okay? Two different motivations going to the same job. Who's going to like their work? The person who's thinking, I'm offering service to others. I'm doing something worthwhile that other people can benefit from. That person is going to have much more job satisfaction than a person who's going there simply because they want the money. Yeah. And you know what? Even if you start out going because you want the money, you can always change your motivation and deliberately cultivate a motivation to be a benefit and be of service. Yeah. No matter what your job is, I'm going there to serve the public. I'm also going there because I care about my colleagues. Yeah. I want to be a good team player. I want to do my job well, because it makes life nicer for all my colleagues. Yeah. If I cut corners, if I leave early, if I'm sloppy, that affects the other people I work with. It makes them unhappy. When they're unhappy, then I'm going to wind up working in an environment with unhappy people, and I'm not even going to be happy doing that. But if I care about my colleagues, and I do my work in a timely way, in a considerate way, sometimes maybe I even do small things that don't take much effort, but it's a step beyond what other people are expecting, and it makes a nice gesture of kindness to other people, then my workplace place is going to be transformed. And I'm going to really enjoy working there because we're all going to feel like we have the same motivation and we're working for the same goal, and that we all care about each other in the process of doing that. Okay? So this depends on each person. You know, before you go to work every day, sitting down and consciously cultivating your motivation. Instead of just getting up, brushing your teeth, eating some breakfast, getting on the MRT, you know, walking to your workplace, getting off the bus, getting there, sitting down, okay, what am I going to do? Be kind to yourself. It takes exactly 1 minute to change your motivation, if that long. And if you change your motivation before you go to work, your whole day is going to be different. Similarly for the students, if you change your motivation before you go to class, I'm not just going to school because I need to get a job and work money. I'm not just going to school because my parents are making me. I really want to learn. I want to become a better person, and I can learn something here. And then, when it's time to get a job, I can do a job that offers service to others that other people will benefit from. And so to offer that kind of service to society, then I need to get a good education. And I'm going to try and make things easy for my teacher. I'm not going to be an obnoxious student. And if my teacher offers to give me extra help, I'm going to take them up on it because I really want to learn. Okay, so all you do is change your motivation, and you do this every single morning. And you get yourself habituated to a different kind of motivation. And through that, your whole experience in the day changes because your motivation changes. So this is putting wisdom and compassion, which is the title of our talk this morning, is putting wisdom and compassion into practice in our daily life. We're wise because we don't believe everything we think. I wrote a book with that title. Because, really, we shouldn't believe everything we think, because sometimes we misunderstand things and we jump to conclusions and we project all sorts of stuff on other people. And then we act based on our projections. And other people are unhappy, and we're unhappy as well. Okay? So it's wise. Don't believe everything you think. Think about it. Look at the stories you tell yourself. And check out if they're true. Many of us, in our self-talk, you know what we say to ourselves? If we really look at what we say, it's quite outrageous, especially when it comes to our own self-judgment, what we think about ourselves. Many of us have this part of our mind that speaks to ourselves, that says, I'm such a jerk. I'm not doing very well. I'm very inconsiderate. I'm not lovable. Nobody loves me. Nobody cares about me. I don't really care about them anyway. Everything I do is wrong. People are always critical of me and put me down and never give me a fair chance. Any of you have that kind of dialogue inside your head? was at a meeting, a conference once with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and people like John Kabat-Zinn and a bunch of university people who, you know, scientists and psychologists and neurobiologists. And we started talking about how people have low self-esteem, you know, and always have this kind of very self-critical attitude, feeling I'm not good enough. I'm really not good enough. Other people are better than me. I don't do enough, I don't have enough, I'm not good enough. Always start talking about this. And the Dalai Lama was very perplexed. And he looked around this room and he said, who of you think like this about, you know, yourself? And it's a room full of people with PhDs, you know, who are all experts in their field. And they look at each other and they all go, oh, I do. We all do. And His Holiness looks and he says, but you're so successful. You've accomplished so much. Why do you have such low self-esteem and think so poorly of yourself? And we had the most interesting discussion after that, because His Holiness really wanted to know, why do we do this? So what ideas do you have about why we, you know, talk in such a nasty way to ourselves? What factors influence that?
So that we can improve ourselves constantly.
So we can what?
Improve ourselves constantly.
Okay, so one idea is, if I put myself down, then I will improve myself. Okay, so we're going to look at that with wisdom. Is that true? That if you put yourself down, then you will improve yourself? Yeah, look, in your own personal experience, when you put yourself down, do you feel more motivated to learn and change yourself? Or do you feel discouraged and despondent and don't do anything as a result of it? Which one? How do you feel when you put yourself down? Hello out there. Talk to me. Hmm? Discouraged. Yeah. You feel discouraged, don't you? So does criticizing yourself for the ostensible reason to improve myself, so I don't get lazy, is that actually true? Does that reason work? It's complete baloney, isn't it? Yeah, it's phony baloney. It doesn't work. And yet we keep doing it. Yeah. But when we're able to look with wisdom and see, you know, that reason is not true, that strategy doesn't work, then that gives us the ability to put it down and stop doing that. And when we catch ourselves doing it, say, you know, blaming myself for everything doesn't make me more vigilant and doesn't improve myself. I've got to stop doing it. And you press the stop button on all that internal chatter. What's another reason, do you think, that we blame ourselves? Yeah, we compare ourselves with others. And nowadays, especially with Facebook and social media, we do that even more. But just as you, on your Facebook page, do you tell people absolutely everything about yourself? Or do you paint a picture of yourself that looks kind of good. Yeah? You paint a picture of yourself that looks good. Yeah? Look what I did. Here I am. I went there on vacation. I did this. Here I am with this friend. I did this. Here's this happening. All these pictures. Look at me. I'm so happy. I'm with all these important people. You know, I know this person. I know that person. Look at how many friends. I'm a star. You know, that's what you do on your Facebook page. Okay. So, other people look at your Facebook page and compare themselves with what you look like. Not what you're really like inside. Not all this self-blame and discouragement and stuff. Because you're not putting that on your Facebook. You want to create a good image. But they know their reality with all their internal turmoil and garbage. And they look at your Facebook and they say, I'm really a mess. And similarly, they, on their Facebook, they've created this really good image of themselves. Here I am with this person, here I am there, look at me, I'm so knowledgeable, I've attained so much, you know, I won this award and that award, and they present themselves like that on Facebook. And you look at them and you say, wow, they're so successful. They've won awards, they know all these famous people. Look at them, they travel, they have this, they're in a couple relationship with this incredibly good-looking person, and look at me, I'm just a disaster. No, I don't have any of that. Okay? So you're comparing yourself with an image, a false image of your friends. And they're comparing themselves with a false image of you. And then we all wind up feeling lousy about ourselves and incompetent. Okay? Does this sound a little crazy? It does, doesn't it? Yeah. Why in the world are we comparing ourselves to other living beings? Especially to just images of people and not who they really are. Yeah. And how about having the thing of, I'm okay as I am. Yeah. What a radical idea. Revolutionary idea to think I'm okay as I am. One person told me, you know, he was really struggling with self-esteem problems. He was a former Army Ranger, okay? U.S. Army, that tells you a little bit. So he was struggling with self-esteem problems. And I said, you know, how about just saying, I'm good enough as I am? And he said, if I say that to myself, then I'll be lazy. Kind of like what you said, you know? I'll be lazy, I'll go downhill. Say, what? Yeah? You're harming yourself. Why are you so stuck? It's because you're beating yourself up. So one of my teachers, Bodhicitta Yeshi, he had these short little phrases that were so wonderful. And he used to look at us and say, good enough, dear. You'd go to Mama, my relationship, Mama, I got fired from my job, this is wrong, that's wrong, you know, I'm such a failure, other people earn more money than me, other people are more good looking than me, called everybody dear. Good enough, dear. And this was one line that he kept on over and over again. Good enough, dear. So, you know, when your teacher says the same thing over and over again, after a while you think, maybe I better listen. Maybe I better think about what my teacher is telling me. And so I started thinking about that and adopted a program of self-acceptance, saying, I'm good enough. And then part of my mind would rebel and say, no, you're not. And then, no, I'm practicing what Lama said, good enough, dear. Of course I can still improve in the future, but I am what I am, so it might as well be good enough. And then one year, I went back to Dharamsala in India, where I had done a lot of my training. And years ago, when I had lived in Dharamsala, I had tried to learn Tibetan. You know, I couldn't do it. Tibetan, they have all sorts of dialects, kind of like Chinese. They also have different pitches and pronunciation. You know, ka, ka, ka. All sorts of things. Saying pa, pa, pa. It's saying, you know, they say, no, it's different words, different letters. For me, it sounds the same. Yeah. So, and then whenever I had a teacher, I didn't have time to learn Tibetan. Whenever I had time, I couldn't find a teacher. Then I didn't have money, you know. So I never learned Tibetan. I learned a few words, but you know, I never learned Tibetan. And I remember one year going back to Dharamsala after I was living in the West. And, you know, thinking, wow, so many of my friends that I studied with in the early years, they all know Tibetan. They're all translators. Look at me, you know? Still, when I go to talk to my teachers, I have to find a translator. And so I started to go into this whole, you know, I'm so bad, I'm a failure, kind of, you know, that kind of video. You know, we have different videos in our mind, you know, this, I'm so bad, everything is my fault. This is one of the videos we play very often. And I thought about what Mama said, and I said, no, I'm not going to play that video. I stopped it. And I just said, good enough. Good enough, good enough. And then I started looking and realizing that because I didn't learn Tibetan, it made me really think about the Dharma in a much deeper way. Because I couldn't just rely on Tibetan jargon. I had to really think about what a word meant. Really, what was the concept that this English word was trying to get across? Because, you know, when you translate, you just pick a word that kind of has something like the word you're translating, but not fully. Yeah. So it really made me think, you know, about the Dharma in a much deeper way. And explain the Dharma to myself in English. Yeah. Instead of Tibetan jargon, Tibetan sentence structure, Tibetan debating form. And so I realized, you know, okay, in one way, not learning Tibetan was a disadvantage. In another way, it was an advantage. Yeah. And then I started, so that was one thing I started practicing, you know, good enough, dear. The other thing I started practicing was rejoicing that other people are better than me. Yeah. Before, the idea of rejoicing that other people were better than me, I could not stand it. They're better than me. I'm so jealous. It's not fair that they can do that and I can't. They look better than me. They're more competent than me. It's not fair. I'm such a mess. I'm a failure. You know, that whole thing. Compare what you do when you compare yourself to others. And instead, I practice looking at other people and saying, I'm glad that they're better than me. Yeah. When you're a monastic, you sit in ordination order, you know, according to seniority. Yeah. So early on, when I was a baby monastic, I would look up the line at my seniors, criticize every single one of them. Look down the line to my juniors and criticize every single one of them. And come to the conclusion that I must be the best one of all. Until I started playing the video of comparing myself. You know, well, that one knows Tibetan, and that one, you know, is excellent teaching, and that one is a good meditator, and that one, you know, can really counsel people well, and that one does this. And then I was, you know, the biggest failure. But then when I started practicing rejoicing that other people were better than me, yeah, I would look up the line, yeah, and I would just see these people's good qualities and what they had accomplished. And I would look down the line and I would see people's talents and potentials and abilities and everything they could do, you know, if I was able to help them. You know, if I could help my juniors. And it completely changed my relationship with all these people. You know? Because instead of comparing myself to them, I started really appreciating them and really feeling genuinely glad that they had talents and abilities and possibilities and opportunities that I didn't have. Yeah? And so that made my mind happy. And it improved my relationships greatly with other people because I had a more positive attitude towards them. And then also they say that when you rejoice at other people's virtue, that you create a lot of good karma yourself, even though you didn't do the same virtuous action they did. Yeah, they call rejoicing the lazy person's way to create good karma. You can just sit there and rejoice at what everybody else does. Of course, you should, you know, get up and do something good yourself. But, you know, it's a way to rejoice. And I thought, wow, you know, this really works. And I'm happier, my relationships are better. I feel so much more at peace inside. Really being able to acknowledge the achievements of my seniors and of my juniors. Very, very helpful. Okay? So when we notice this self-critical mind, we have to, you know, really question it. Because it's so full of exaggerations. I can't do anything right. Really? Really? I can't do anything right? I mean, I know how to make a cup of tea. Yeah, I know how to read, I know how to write. I know how to do a lot of things. I can do some things right. Yeah, I need to give myself credit for what I can do. And then when the mind says, nobody loves me, and you question that. Really? Nobody loves me? My cat loves me. Yeah. My parents love me. They may not show their love to me the way I would like them to show their love. But they do care about me. So to really stop and question the thoughts that we have and ask ourselves, is this true or not true? You know, because what use is there in believing things that are not true? It just makes us really dumb. Okay. So if we're good enough, then how do we motivate ourselves to improve? Yeah? Okay? When we say, I'm good enough, that means in this present moment, who I am, what I do, what I have is good enough. Because it is what it is. I am what I am at this moment. I am what I am. So it might as well be good enough. In the next moment, I can still improve. I have the Buddha nature. I have potential. I can increase my knowledge and my ability and my wisdom and my compassion in the future. But at this moment, whatever my level of wisdom or compassion or knowledge or ability is, it's good enough. Okay? So we distinguish between the present and the future. So you're afraid that saying, I'm good enough will make you very arrogant. When you're using I'm good enough as a remedy to I'm a failure, it's not going to make you proud. It's, you know, you're trying to think realistically. Saying I'm good enough is not saying I'm better than everybody else. Doesn't it? It just means that instead of setting the bar for myself so impossibly high that there's no way I can make it, I'm setting the bar at the level where I'm at. And what I have attained is good enough. I'm not comparing. When you're saying I'm good enough, you're not comparing yourself to other people. It's when you compare yourself to other people that you turn out arrogant. Okay? But you're just using it as a remedy to all this hogwash nonsense about I'm a failure. Right. It's you're talking to yourself. You're getting to know yourself. It's totally free of comparison with other people. Yeah. And what you do when you say I'm good enough is you're making friends with yourself. Because so often all we notice is our own faults. We don't notice our good qualities. And that's unrealistic. Yeah. In Buddhism, you know, we have one prayer called the 7-branch prayer. The third branch is confessing and repenting our mistakes. The fourth branch is rejoicing at our own and others' virtues. Okay, we need to do both of those things. Yes, I've made mistakes, and I can be honest with myself and admit my mistakes and repair the relationship and purify my non-virtuous actions. And I've also created virtue, and I rejoice about that. Not only my own virtue, but everybody else's virtue too. And I rejoice and I feel happy because it's so good that they are good human beings. And even though nobody's good 100% of the time, whatever good actions people do, I'm just delighted by it. Okay, so you asked about remedies to laziness. Yeah. You know, there's 3 kinds of laziness in Buddhism. Now, one is what we usually think of laziness. Okay, that's one kind of laziness. We all recognize that. The second kind of laziness is being really busy doing all sorts of non-virtuous, unwholesome actions. So you're really busy going out drinking, drugging, doing bad business deals, putting other people down, cheating other people, yeah. And thinking you're a big success in your career because you can do that really well. Yeah? So busy, the busiest of the busy, yeah, comparing yourself to others, putting them down, putting yourself up, cheating, lying, yeah, for the benefit of your own reputation, for the benefit of your own income. That is a form of laziness, according to the Buddha. Why? Because we're lazy in creating virtue, and we're dedicated to creating non-virtue. Yeah? In fact, somebody even comes and says, you know, your accounting books are not so great. Yeah, like you're cheating, you're lying, you're stealing, and you know, we just cover it up. We don't even want to own it. Yeah. So that's laziness. We're busy creating a lot of non-virtue. The third kind of laziness is the laziness of discouragement. It's the laziness of putting ourselves down. What we were just talking about. The laziness of, I can't practice the Dharma. I can't do it. It's just too hard. I mean, everybody else has Buddha nature and can become a Buddha. I don't. What? Yeah. Everybody else has Buddha nature? I don't? Yeah, because I'm special. Different. And if I can't be better than them, I'm going to be worse than them. So they all have Buddha nature, I don't. So something's wrong with me. That's being lazy. Because we're discouraging ourselves. Or even in mundane things. You know, before I became a nun, I was a teacher. And in primary school, primary 3. And there was a little boy named Tyrone in my class. And somewhere along the line, his parents or some adults had told Tyrone he was stupid. You know how parents often put their children down? They told him he was stupid, and he believed it. Tyrone was not stupid. He was fully capable. But because he told himself he was stupid, he couldn't learn to read. It had nothing to do with his ability. It had to do with what he thought of himself. And it had to do with what adults had erroneously told him when he was little. Yeah? I've always wondered what happened to Tyrone. Yeah. This was many years ago. I think he must be in his late 40s now. It was my first year of teaching. So, yeah, it's really important to encourage ourselves. We won't become lazy by, you know, I mean, when we encourage ourselves and when we encourage other people, then people want to do well. And if you ever work in management, or if you're ever a parent, your job is to encourage your employees if you work in management. Your job is to encourage your children if you're a parent. Just pointing out to people what they do wrong doesn't make them do better. It makes them discouraged and then they give up. So it's important as parents, as managers, to really encourage the people you work with. And, you know, for us who are students or colleagues or whatever to point out the good qualities of our fellow students and our fellow colleagues and encourage people. It's really nice when you make it a practice to point out other people's good qualities and to point out whatever they do well. They like it, and it makes our own mind happy, and it certainly improves the relationship. So no danger of becoming lazy.